the Gulf States newsroom, this is the Gulf States Gumbo, your weekly serving of stories from Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I'm community engagement reporter Elise Gregg, chopping it up this week. Okay, so stick with me here. This episode is going to go on a bit of a journey, and we're starting with a lesson in recent history. So you may remember that towards the end of last year, the federal government was shut down. It lasted 43 days and was the longest shutdown in U.S. history. And you may also remember that one of the big reasons Congress failed to reopen the government was a debate over health care. And specifically, it was a debate over extending health care subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, also known as Obamacare. And those subsidies help people pay for health insurance, and they were set to expire at the end of December. Democrats like House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries wanted to extend them.
That actually meets the needs of the American people and to decisively address the Republican health care crisis, particularly as it relates to the urgent need to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
And then Republicans like House Speaker Mike Johnson did not.
And remember, the Democrats created this COVID-era subsidy. They are the ones that put the expiration date on it. And now they're turning to Republicans as if we should save that in some way. We couldn't find consensus on it.
In the end, though, Democrats agreed to a resolution to end the shutdown for a promise to vote on the subsidies. That vote failed to pass, and those subsidies have now expired. Okay, so that's the end of my recent history lesson, but during all that back and forth and debate, our public health reporter Drew Hawkins was out in the field talking to folks on the ground, across the political spectrum, about what losing the ACA subsidies might mean for them. And he joins me now to talk about his journey following all of this. Hey there, Drew.
Hi, Elise. Really great history lesson there. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Glad I got all the points out. So, take us through this, though. As I understand it, Louisiana is the state that is being hit the hardest by the loss of these subsidies. Is that right?
That's exactly right. I'm sorry, I have to do this. It's another really quick history lesson. These subsidies that we're talking about, these were enhanced premium tax credits, which is a complicated way to say that they lower the monthly cost of health insurance for people who qualify and buy coverage through the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, as you mentioned, on the marketplace. And these were temporary subsidies. They were first put in place during the pandemic and then extended through 2025. So as you mentioned, they were set to expire at the end of December. And Louisiana is a state that would be hit the hardest by losing these subsidies. An analysis from the Urban Institute found that Louisiana will see a 61% drop in marketplace enrollment. That is about 85,000 people losing healthcare coverage.
Okay, so you're following these national debates and you're also on the road following what people on the ground are saying. So where'd you go and, what were you hearing from folks who you talked to?
Right. So as these debates were happening, Democrats wanted to extend the subsidies. Republicans were sort of divided over what to do. In the House of Representatives, Speaker Mike Johnson said he was putting together an alternative that would not include extending the subsidies. That ultimately did not happen. But while they were talking about it, I went out to Johnson's district, which is in North Louisiana.
You got to take that spinach back anyways.
And I talked to Caden Cable, who runs a small farm in a place called Farmerville in Union Parish at the very top of the state. Cable grows vegetables like spinach, carrots, and turnips. And while I was out there, the turnips were actually ready to be pulled out of the ground.
I love these turnips. These are my favorite turnips that we've ever grown because, they just have such a sweet flavor to them. It's Louisiana, man. Who doesn't like sweets here?
So Cable is a Democrat, and he is not a fan of House Speaker Mike Johnson, especially Johnson's lack of support for extending those subsidies. Johnson called the push to extend them a boondoggle and called concerns and frustrations about the expiring tax credits hullabaloo. And Cable says he and his wife, Rachel, they depend on those subsidies in order to afford their health insurance. Rachel has medical conditions that require expensive prescriptions.
And if my wife gets sick, she may die. And we can't afford it. If I get sick, I can't go to the hospital because we can't afford it.
So in October, the Cables, like many people in Louisiana, they got a letter saying that their health insurance would go up. And for them, that would go from about $470 a month to over $1,400 when the subsidies expire. And Rachel, she told me that getting that letter was really heartbreaking.
It feels like to me they're putting a gun against my head and just saying, you don't really have any choice. If this bullet goes in your brain or not, we're still going to fire. And It's just utter and complete heartbreak. I'm shaking now thinking about it. It's really hard.
Man, you got me teared up a little bit.
Okay, wow. I can't even imagine being in that sort of position and just the stress they must be feeling. You said cable is a Democrat in Johnson's district. What were you hearing from Republicans there?
Well, like a lot of small towns, Farmerville is a really tight-knit community. So after picking, washing, and packing vegetables, Cable boxed up the produce for delivery, including one for donation to the Trees of Righteousness, which is a food pantry in Farmerville. And that's where we met with Susie Halley, who runs the food pantry.
Can put some of that in the bottom drawer if you have to.
And now Halley is a Republican, but she said that politics don't matter when it comes to helping people in need.
We don't care how you vote, or we don't care your ethnic background. We don't care. Sure. You get help no matter what.
Halley said political disagreements at the national level, like you hear in Congress, they don't reflect how people in communities like Farmerville interact with each other. She says they just try to help each other. And that's why she supported extending the ACA subsidies.
Mr. Johnson or whoever else, it may be Republican or Democrat, I don't care. Let's fix the problem. Republican or Democrat, let's fix it. Let's stop voting party-wise. Let's fix it, Congress. Let's fix it.
And Halley isn't alone in this feeling. There was a poll done by the health policy research group KFF, and it found that 72% of Republicans enrolled in marketplace plans supported extending those subsidies. But, of course, in the end, Congress did not vote to extend them, and they have now expired.
Okay, so that's really interesting to hear, from both of those people and to kind of see those numbers. So you went out to Farmerville, you spoke with those farmers, and you're working on a story about how people in Johnson's district feel about the subsidies. And so what happened next?
Yeah, so more of the journey part of this whole thing. So right after I got back from Union Parish and just before Congress was going to vote on extending the subsidies, President Trump announced a $12 billion plan to help farmers across the country. It's called the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program, and it's this one-time payment that's meant to help farmers make it to the next growing season. And those one-time payments, they come from tariff revenue.
Right. Okay. And I would imagine many farmers who are struggling may also rely on help to pay for health insurance, right?
You got it, Elise. I mean, farmers have been struggling this year, especially row crop farmers. These are folks that grow things like soybeans, corn, and cotton. So fresh from the road in Union Parish, I went to a black farmer convention in New Orleans.
Coffee's worn off, the liquor's still kicking in, let's go, stand up.
The National Black Growers Council's annual meeting just so happened to be taking place a few days after the Trump administration announced billions in tariff relief funding. So one of the farmers I talked to, his name was James Davis, and he actually drove down from North Louisiana, where I had just been. He's a third-generation row crop farmer, and he calls the Trump administration's program a bailout and says that even with it, some farmers may still go out of business.
It's not enough. Farmers gonna still need more. I hope and pray that it's enough to keep farmers in business, because some of us have bigger debts than others.
And Davis also relies on those ACA subsidies to pay for his and his wife's health insurance. He said that their insurance premium will quadruple, jumping to around $2,700 a month, and he doesn't know how they'll be able to pay for it without those subsidies.
Without subsidies, you can't afford it. Bottom line, there's nothing to discuss. You can't afford it without the subsidies.
Okay, wow. So you've got a lot of factors here affecting farmers. And what else did you hear from them at the convention?
Yeah, so, like I mentioned, a lot of the farmers at the convention talked about how they have been hit really hard this year. One of them I spoke with was Finest Stribling III, and he farms 800 acres in Tennessee and Arkansas. He said the Trump administration's tariffs, which were then followed by other countries placing retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, that means that farmers haven't been able to export their commodities. And that makes it harder to secure loans that many farmers take to get their crops into the ground that they then have to pay back once they get those crops out of the ground.
You say $12 billion seems like a lot of money, but when you look at the cost of production and the type of money that's spent in agriculture, I mean, $12 billion really just a drop in the bucket. It's almost like putting a bandage on a bullet wound, perspective.
And, just like I heard in Farmerville, for many of the farmers at the convention, the politics behind the tariff relief don't really matter. That's what I heard from PJ Haney. He's a fifth-generation row crop farmer, and he's the chairman of the National Black Growers Council.
We all have to eat, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're independent, we all have to eat. And that's the most important thing that we have to recognize, that we've got to support farmers. I don't care what the administration is. I don't care who's making decisions. There's not enough dirty boots underneath the tables in Washington, D.C. making the decisions.
And in addition to things like unpredictable weather, which is normal for farmers, but then also things like tariffs, Black farmers have faced additional challenges. I mean, they make up less than 2% of all growers, and their numbers and the size of their farms have been shrinking.
In 1920, there were 1 million Black farmers in this country. In present day, there are less than 10,000 Black row crop farmers in the U.S. Black-owned land 100 years ago was 16 million acres. Present day, it's only 2 million. That's 14 million acres of Black-owned land. Our herd is small. So again, if we can protect the herd will grow.
And last year, the Trump administration dismantled decades-old USDA programs that were designed to specifically assist Black farmers by eliminating this socially disadvantaged designation. And that includes programs like the 2501 program, which many Black row crop farmers rely on for access to credit, technical assistance, and other support.
The Black row crop farm community needs the support of the administration. We need the support of program participation. We need the set-asides to make sure these families can stay in business.
So while the farmers welcome the bridge payments, like every dollar helps sort of thing, the challenges they're facing go beyond 1 year of relief. With the tariffs affecting international trade for American row crop farmers, in the meantime, other countries have ramped up their production, and now they have become serious competition. So many row crop farmers are looking at 2026 with a lot of uncertainty. And that's what I heard from John Lee II from Arkansas.
With the current prices that we're receiving, to try to get a bank to approve a loan, that's concerning to me. Is what do we do in 2026 when we go to the bank to try and get a loan? What crops do we raise? So I'm concerned about the notion of going to the bank this upcoming year and not being able to get a loan because we can't make the loan cash flow. That's a big concern of mine.
All right, well, 2026 is now here, so we'll be watching to see what happens. And that was public health reporter Drew Hawkins taking us on his recent reporting journey. Thanks, Drew.
Thanks, Elise. It was certainly quite the journey.
Drew, before you go, it's time for Gulf States Gems, our series where we shout out something we love from the region. So do you have a gem for us?
Okay, so maybe not necessarily a gem, but it is a new year, new year, new me, all that kind of thing. And I do have some resolutions. One of them is to see more of the natural beauty in the Gulf South. I'd really like to visit more state parks in the region. So rather than me shouting out a specific place for this gem, I'd love to hear from our audience. What are some places I should check out? Places to hike, landmarks to see, some state parks to visit. Whatever you think is a natural gem that I should go check out, please let me know. You can email us at connect@gulfstatesnewsroom.org, or you can send us a DM on our Instagram page @GulfStatesNewsroom.
This week's show is cooked up by the Gulf States Newsroom team. Our theme music is by DJ Supreme. Special thanks to our partner stations WBHM, Mississippi Public Broadcasting, WWNO, and WRKF. You can find us in your podcast feeds every Friday. Look us up and be sure to subscribe. Again, I'm your host, Elise Gregg. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to stir your root.